Well, today's video is supposed to feature the compact Presario A900, but as you can see, there's a bunch of stuff sitting on top of it. Can't really make a video about it if there's stuff sitting on top of it. Let me go deal with this. Alright, before I get into the meat and potatoes of this video, figure I would make a couple of notes about the last video that I made about this subject, which is to say Windows 10. That video was based on the current build at the time, which I believe might have been 10.130. Maybe it was 10.166, whatever came after that. After 10.130, I don't remember. I have to go watch the video again, but it's something like that. And that video has received more positive feedback than I was expecting, because I naturally, after seeing V. Westlife's video, the same thing, I naturally expected to see, all kinds of dislikes and all kinds of negative responses. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Windows 10's great. What the hell do you think you're talking about? Blah, 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 all that stuff. But no, I received a lot of positive feedback. There's a lot of negative feedback in the other direction at Microsoft. And I have to say I'm impressed with people being reasonable. I haven't had, I did have to ban one person for posting a stupid comment, but that's it. One person. Which is I think that's probably a record for these, I'd say, controversial videos. Because there are a lot of strong opinions that I've got about Windows 10 and about other various releases of Windows, as you probably saw from my Windows 95 video. Alright. This video is not going to be a Let's Bash Windows 10 video. That's not the point. There are good things about Windows 10. In fact, overall, I believe that it's a step forward. But, with every step forward, there are a couple of steps back. With Microsoft, anyways. And there are still some things about it that even after release, it's been out for a bit, so I've had a chance to look at some of the other things and check out the release version of Windows 10. There are still several things that I have to say I still don't like about it, but I think I am ready to start recommending Windows 10 to people, because I think it's probably about as finished as it's ever going to be. And some of the things that I have had issues with have been present in Windows since Windows 8. Some of them even longer than that. But let's see if it's going to do the first problem. The first problem happens when you start the computer up. You see, by default, Windows 8 and 8.1 and 10 have got something called Fast Startup installed, which is great. It makes your computer start up a whole heck of a lot faster, because instead of fully shutting the system down, it basically creates a hibernate file and then shuts the system down. So it prevents the system, in layman's terms, from having to load all the drivers all over again when it starts up, which drastically cuts down on the loading time. Let me tell you, it really drastically cuts down on the loading time. However, on a non-UEFI system, it has a very interesting side effect. And watch, they probably fixed this now. I don't know if it's going to do it for me when I turn this thing on, but it probably would if I had removed the hard drive. Let's see what happens. Yeah, you can see right there in the corner, there's no information. Usually there's something, press F2 for BIOS post messages, press F9 to enter the BIOS, press F10 for boot options, all that kind of stuff. There's usually that in the corner. It's not there. You can't enter the BIOS after a fast boot. It doesn't work. You have to reboot the system. You have to boot it all up and then reboot it. If you change hard drives, you got an issue. That is a major bug, I would say, in Windows 8, 8.1, and Windows 10, and it is amazing it has not been fixed. Although, I guess there's been a fix released. Everything's going to UEFI now. So I guess it doesn't even really matter, because most UEFI systems will have it anyways. They'll be able to go into their BIOS. But not with these. And if you're wondering why I'm using an older system, it's because that's what happens to be handy. I'm not putting a, what was at the time, beta or alpha or preview operating system on a system I use on a daily basis. This happens to be the newest one I've got, apart from the ones that I use on a daily basis. So that's why I'm using this old hunk of junk. And I'm also probably going to get comments before I even go any further. I should have discussed this already, but before I get any comments about it, I'm using the old camera, this old TRV-72 recording tape, high-8 tape, because I got complaints in the last video that I wasn't using a tripod. Let me show you what I used to record the last video. I'm going to have to unplug it first. This is what I used to record the last video. This right here. I'd love to see you put this on a tripod. That's why I didn't use a tripod. I'm also not editing this video because, hey, I've got an edit button right on the camera. It's fast forward and rewind. It's got a stop button on it. I'm not going to edit this. I'm just going to upload it to YouTube, which is the same thing that I did with the last video. Did it in one take. Because it's easy. I'm lazy. I'm going to admit that. My videos suck. I'm going to admit that. But, you know, if you take a look at some of the other videos, I do use editing software. Just not for this video, because I don't think it's necessary for this video. Now, you've been staring at this screen for a while, and this is the next thing I'm going to point out that I don't like about anything later than Windows 7. It's this lock screen right here. It's great for touch screens. It's great for phones. But if I sit my grandmother in front of that, who has used nothing but Windows XP, maybe Windows 7, I don't know if she's got 7 on her machine yet, but anyways, with its login screen, in fact, it doesn't even show up with the login screen, which is a little bit of a problem personally, but that's just me. He's going to look at that and go, what the hell? What am I supposed to do here? There's no information about what you are supposed to do. There's a mouse pointer up there. I can move the mouse around and make a mess in the process, apparently. But I can move the mouse around. I'm not sure if you can see that. I don't know if the white balance is adjusting low. But I'm moving the mouse around and nothing's happening. It's not clear that you have to press a key in order to get it to do something. Or touch it with your finger on a touch screen. I do like this nice background here. I wish it were changeable, and maybe it is changeable. I haven't really looked into that yet. But I like it. It's better than the bog standard bland background. Not even a background, sorry, it's just a solid color. That was boring. This is not so boring. But again, it would be nice if we could change it. We probably can change it. You can see it just timed out there, and we went back to this. But that's fine. I now know that I need to push a key in order to get to that. I'm going to log in here, so I'm going to stop the camera, and we'll take a look at what I like and don't like about the rest of the operating system. Alright, so let's take a look at what we got going on here. Very spare desktop. Yes, old habits do die hard. That is the Bliss background. Alright, let's take a look at what I do like, first off. I have to say that I like the new start menu. Some of these tiles are annoying, but I can deal with those. Let's see, where's the mouse? I'm having a hard time with this mouse today. I really do like the multiple desktop feature. Now, it was pointed out in my last video that every other operating system has this, and that's true. Every other operating system has this and has beat Microsoft to this. Actually, there were vestiges, I guess is the right way to pronounce that, of multi-desktops in Windows NT 4. Now, I don't know why they were never brought to market. I haven't researched that, but suffice you to say, it never ended up coming to be, never ended up coming to fruition, and it just was never there. But it's nice to finally see Microsoft catching up with the rest of the world. It is something that you could probably use to manage your Windows. The way I use it on this system is I've got 3 programs I usually run. I've got Audacity, I've got a audio broadcast tool, and I've got a FMLE, so I keep them on separate windows so I can just mouse over them and check out what's going on, because it's easy. That's how I got it set up. Alright. The notification center is definitely a bonus. Some of these tips are kind of irritating though. We've got tablet mode, which actually will bring up what looks like the start page, although it doesn't seem to quite... Oh, there it goes. It's kind of slow. Brings up the start page full screen. Or we can have that, which is what I usually have it at. We've got what looks like a note program, which opens up OneNote. Alright, what else have we got here? I like the project. It's easy to project to a second screen. Apparently it wants me to try Office 365. Maybe I should do that and give it a good old college try. You can easily adjust the display brightness now in Windows. That should have existed a long time ago. I like that. That is something that should have been around for a while, yes. Airplane mode doesn't seem to do much of anything. I don't know why, but it just doesn't seem to work. Maybe it's because this is a laptop and not like a tablet or whatever. Quiet hours, I believe what that does is that silences the sounds and stops the notifications from popping up. That's a nice feature too, but I usually just leave it off. In a way, I do like the simplified network settings deal. I'm not a big fan of the simplified speaker thing. You can see it's got my headphones. I'm not a big fan of this, really. It's simple, but it's too simple. I have to right-click and open up the mixer most of the time because I do like using the mixer. That's an interesting feature. I haven't really looked at that before. And then we've still got the regular system tray with all of the different icons. Most everything is just the same. It's just been Windows 10ified, or whatever, if that's even a word. I'm going to point out something else I'm not exactly fond of with Windows 10, and it is the fact that it is seemingly possible to break tiles and also break the application list. Let's see if it'll bring up the application list. I might have removed the one that was in here. Nope, it's still there. It is seemingly possible to break it, because if we take a look, if I can get this tripod to move over here, it looks as though there is an old copy of the Windows Store there. And if I can move the mouse to it, if I click on it, it does absolutely nothing. So I don't know why it's here. Unless I can remove it. Just like that. There's another one right up here. I'm not going to remove this. But I don't know what this is supposed to do. You saw that there. It pops up the window for a second, and then the window just disappears. I'm not sure why it is so easy to break things like that by uninstalling. Realistically, it was probably some program in one of the earlier Windows preview builds that just was uninstalled or replaced for whatever reason, and that was never removed. But that doesn't make it any less annoying and confusing. And it is on that note that I'm going to point out another thing that I'm not exactly fond of in Windows 10. And it is the fact that a Metro application crash doesn't pop up a crash report. Sure, you can probably go hunting for it in the event viewer. Sure, you can probably debug the program if you have to be a developer. Developers. You knew I had to get one of those in there. But it doesn't pop up a message telling the user that the program crashed. It just disappears. Off the screen, gone. Never to be seen again. That's a usability issue. I don't know what happened to the program. Maybe it's going to pop up another window and do something. Maybe it's going to tell me information later about how it crashed. I don't know. But it's just one of those irritating things that still exists in Windows 10. And it should have been fixed a while ago. Maybe there's some kind of technical limitation preventing the ability for a message box saying, hey, this application crashed, from popping up. I'd like to think there is not, though. I'm going to point out something else that I like with Windows 10. and it is the quick access. Now there are things I like and things I don't like about this. It's the quick access you can see right there on your screen right now. I like that feature because it allows me to pin things that I want to, well, quickly access to the sidebar of the Explorer. It makes things easier to access instead of having to go through all of this other random junk. It also seems to have recent files too. That's a nice feature. But there's one problem. You can see there's a folder up here called Compact. I have never used this folder on this system, but it's still there. In fact, the folder doesn't even exist, as you can see right there. So I don't know why it managed to pin that. That was something that an early build of Windows did, but it's just never been removed. I would expect, it's another one of these integrity things. I would have expected that if the folder doesn't exist, if it's pinned or not, you'd remove it. That would be the logical thing to do, but it doesn't seem as though that's what's going to happen here. So unfortunately, that's my problem with it. And I got another problem with the Explorer. It's a fairly big problem, but it has existed for a while. Let's take a look at this Explorer window here. Explorer window here. Notice the problem? This is a folder. We can take a look at the top bar here, titled This PC. Well, I understand it. Why are all of these things here? Why are those not under quick access? And most importantly, or rather, additionally, why are they not on the sidebar under a separate thing? This is confusing, because now you can access it in 3 different places. You can access it through the sidebar right here by using these toggles. You can access it under one of these disk things, in fact 4 ways. You can access it here, and you can access it in the quick access. That's 4 different places that you can have these. That's confusing. Limit it down to 2, or the user's choice. You know, if the user wants to display it here, have that choice. Let them display it there. If they don't, like me, there you go. They don't have to be there. I'd like to know why the system reserved partition is showing up. Seems to be a bug lately with Windows where it's assigning a drive letter to the system reserved partition for some dumb reason. We'll never understand why it does that. But anyways, there's my whole schnaz about that. Apart from that, the Explorer is pretty nice. I like the window snapping. That's pretty cool. More animated than it was before. But again, that animation probably comes at expense of CPU resources. Alright, let's take a look at something else that I don't like. I'm going to go into the Pale Moon browser, which is what I've been using for a while, though I would like to start using Edge. Okay, take a look at Edge here. Have a look. Pale Moon is not currently set as your default browser. Okay. Now this is not necessarily a Microsoft issue as opposed to an individual program issue, but watch what happens when I select yes. See, we get a message that says to change your default apps, go to Settings, System, Default Apps. What the hell is that? Why can't you just do that by my simply pressing a button? It's easy, and it worked before Windows 10. Doesn't make any sense to me at all. So there's that. But everything else seems to work. I can go in there and change it if I wanted to. And I think the last negative thing I'm going to point out about Windows 10, probably the last thing period, is the fact that there are 2 control panels. If I wanted 2 control panels, I would use Linux. If I wanted 2 confusing, overlapping control panels, I would definitely use Linux. Because that is a common thing in Linux. As much as everybody likes to love Linux, or bash Linux, that's one of the nagging things about it, is that it's always had overlapping control panels and applets in all random different places, and it's always been annoying. We don't need this in Windows 10. Pick one. I don't care if it's the Metro one that you see in front of your screen now. I don't care. Pick one. Don't have us with these useless, dumb, multiple control panel deals. It is stupid. It should have stopped being a thing in the early 2000s. Why does this exist? Why? Somebody explain to me a good reason why this is a good idea. It's not. And anybody that thinks it's a good idea is wrong. So there's that. Anyways, get off my soapbox there. Alright. I like the way that some of this is organized. It's all nicely put there. Separated by category. I shouldn't have any updates because I just installed some. You can see some developer features and all of that. And there are some other things about Windows 10 that I'm not going to show you that I know I don't like right off the top of my head. Wi-Fi sense, that needs to go burn in a hole. What else? There's something else. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. Some of the privacy features are really stupid and should be turned off by default, but they're not. But I've done all that already, so I don't really matter. And this machine I don't use on a regular basis, so I don't really care about that either. Alright, so that's pretty much it for that. I think that's really it for my Windows 10 rant video. Though it wasn't really a rant. Overall, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a nice experience. It's a welcome change from Windows 8, where you had to install your own start menu in order to get it to be useful. It's a nice change from that. However, there are still some things about it that, frankly, they should have been fixed. Because it's stuff that not just me wants. Like, changing the default app, that should never have been like that. The multiple control panels should never have been like that. You should have just picked one or the other. In fact, I wouldn't have really cared if all they did was move everything into the Metro app. I wouldn't have cared. Oh yeah, speaking of Metro apps, before I finish this video, there's another thing I'd like to point out that I like about Windows 10. And it is the fact, I can find a Metro app here, that you can finally treat these like Windows. Finally. Finally. Why was this not a thing before? That's great. I like it. And I guess the last thing I'd like to say about Windows 10 is that some of the customization options really, really should be present. Like, really should be present. In fact, I think some of them are in this build, which is 10.5.25, which isn't the release build, it's a milestone build. Because I'm an in-starter, I still get these. So there you go. There's my Windows 10 video. Take from it what you may. Overall, like I said, Windows 10 is a breath of fresh air compared to Windows 8 and 8.1. But there are still some things about it that, frankly, should have been fixed in the early stages and weren't. And that's just, well, it is what it is, I guess. Thank you for watching. Oh yeah, before I shut this thing down, I'm going to show you something that everybody should do with their systems if they're not tablets. We're going to go into power options. We're going to go into choose what the power buttons do. Change settings that aren't currently available. Turn off fast start. Yes, just turn it off because the feature doesn't work. It hasn't worked in the entire time that it's existed. So that's it. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, feel free to leave them down below. And this is CP666 signing off. I hope to see you next time. Till then, I'm just waiting for it to shut down. It'll take a while now that I've turned off fast startup, but I'd rather it shut down properly than boot up fast and shut down fast. And that is all. Ooh, scary.